Hey guys, how's it going? We've got a Furia game on Jaguar Falls for review today. This is one of my favourite maps because of the small size. I think it works really well, unlike Ice Mines, which I always cringe when I see it. Before we get into the game, I want to have a little bit of a look at the lineups on either side. So we're blue team for this. I think we've got the better draft here, so they don't really have a flank to put any pressure on, which on a small map like Jag, I think is a mistake. And I think Lex is probably one of the best champions in the game at the moment. Equally, I'd rather have Barak than Inara. I'd rather have Khan than Ash. And so overall, I think we're going into this game with an advantage in characters at least. Having said that, two of the players on our team were really toxic. Khan and the Barak. So if that comes out in my commentary, then they were genuinely dicks and deserved it. Please don't be those people. It just doesn't help anyone at all. So at this stage, our team doesn't really have a strategy at all. So I'm just going mid to support our main tank. I have to push forwards there to get line of sight. So Furia needs line of sight to heal. It's not like a Genis. And at the moment, we're keeping everyone topped up okay. So I came around this side to try and get to the Barak. As I did so, he went back to the middle. And so he's not making my life easy. But we've got quite a few kills quite early on, which has pushed them back. One of the complaints that get leveled at healers a lot is that they're only focusing on the tanks. So I do try to make a conscious effort to get others as well. Now, I'm not going to claim to be the best support player in the world. It's probably my least played class. But every time the Inara walls me off, I do make an attempt to get to the Barak. And again, he's left, and you see as I'm moving, it's like we're out of phase or something. Frustrating. For me and for him, to be fair. And then when I get walled off, I see this Victor's low, so I'm keeping him topped up. The beams have been really unimpactful so far. So apart from obviously the healing, I think that is the most important ability. And then I just get knocked off the stage by Ash. With a knockback, it is possible to recover that using wings. But on controller, it will require more coordination than I've got. And now I'm pushing payload. So from my point of view, I can't heal. I suspect a better support could switch between the two. So pop forwards for a heal, come back to push payload. But I had to make a choice, and we need to get there eventually. And now you see most of our team is in white, and the Barak decides to jump in 1v5. The others are coming back, so I use ult to try and help the point fight, and then come over to support this Barak. Now, for a moment there, I'm considering playing like a flank. This is a habit I know I have, and you'll see it worse later in the video. But we get back together, and again, I'm focusing on the Barak. I'm trying to keep him topped up as much as possible. If others are around for healing, then I will do. The Khan decides to chuck an Ash at me, which is always appreciated. There's a few times this Khan just throws people for no particular reason. So if you're not running Commander's Grab, I think that throw is mostly for breaking movement abilities, so things like Realm or Ash dashes. And now Barak's just stood on payload. So if we're pushing, you want them to push forwards and create space. This is that flanking thing I was talking about though. So it's right on Jag for someone to push left flank, but it shouldn't be the healer. So the Victor doing this is entirely legit. And I do leave my tanks unsupported in the middle. So this is definitely a point for improvement. I know I have a habit of playing every character like a flank, but it's important everyone does their role for the team to succeed. And right now, even though I get a kill, I'm not. We're pushing pretty well though, and actually I didn't realise that they were behind us. The beam gets a stun, which allows me to back off, and although I do go down to them, it gives us the opportunity to get both their tanks down. And by the time I return, that's allowed us to push it almost all the way in, and I turn up just in time to see them finish that off. And this is where the emote spam starts, so you can't hear it, fortunately, or unfortunately, because a bug's broken my sound. But the Barrack and the Khan are both VGS spamming need healings, which, you know, as a healer really makes you up your game. That's the thing where I'm like, oh yeah, that's what I was supposed to be doing. Fuck those guys. To be a bit more balanced, I think at the point fight I did a reasonable job. The Barrack often got out of my line of sight, which made my job difficult. But then when we were trying to push that final section, I shouldn't have gone left side. That's for the Lex and the Victor to do. I should have continued to support up the middle. Does that make the criticism legitimate? Maybe. Does it make it helpful? Definitely not. So if you feel like you're not getting healed enough, it's unlikely that your healers are just being dicks. It's far more likely that you're putting yourself in positions where they can't get to you. And so this point fight's going okay again. We use some ults to push them back. The Lex was doing a really good job of carrying, which, considering I think he was 4th pick in this game, was pretty impressive. And the Inara's walling me off a lot, so I try to get to the Barrack most of the time. But you see here, he falls back to the opposite side. So there's no way I can get to him to heal him without dying. I have to focus on staying alive, and as a result, he goes down. I suspect he thought that was my fault. Most of these beams have been pretty poor, but I'm playing quite backline to try and stay alive, and it's enough to get us the cap. And then they start to fall back. So again, everyone else has left payload, so I'm pushing it, and as such I can't get out to heal them. But you can see the Lex comes back to me, and so I'm able to get a heal on him. And as they fall back, we're able to push forwards, but then I do get too aggressive on it. So I get into cover, but I try to get out to heal, and as I do so, the dredge on the left-hand side finishes me off. Probably should have stayed back for out of combat regen, but I'm running cards that heal me when I heal others. And so the appeal of getting in there to be able to heal them as well as getting myself back in. This is a good beam, so it forces them back through the doorway to buy me some time. But I'm getting pushed on that side, so I feel like I need to come around. And because I'm exposed, I'm not able to heal during that period. We really need one of the tanks to be playing that off lane. So the Khan does on occasion, but not consistently. And then I don't realise the dredge is still on that left side. So that's on me. I should be falling back to the middle. I was also getting need healing spam while dead. It's quite hard to heal while dead. But we keep this moving forwards, and we're in a pretty good position. Again, I'm probably getting too aggressive. I could do with the Barrack pushing up to create space for me. But I'm pretty much using heal on cooldown, so I'm not sure how much more healing I could be putting out in this phase. I think the more legitimate criticism is that I'm playing too much in the open, and between dredge spam and the ult from Grok, I go down, and while I'm out, we fail to push that point. So I think that was better, to be honest. I was more successful in supporting up the middle and sticking with my tanks. I had to fall back at times to stay alive, and a lot of that's about the Khan not taking the off lane, and so allowing them to come through that doorway just beyond the point. And obviously, because I need line of sight, if I have to fall back, then I can't heal them, and that then puts them at higher risk. So it's very much a mutual thing. If you protect your healer, they can protect you. Once again, our team splits completely. So the Khan's been complaining about needing healing, but I can't be with him and with the Barrack. That's just not possible. Someone like a Genos can do it because they can heal through walls. And so while I'm thinking about going that side, I decide focusing on the Barrack is more important. Now here I get my positioning wrong. So I think there's a door behind me, but I'm in that little alcove to the right of it. And so that gets me killed. That's just poor positioning. But I do get back and we're doing okay here. We've grouped up in mid again, which once we get to that position, after the team's scattered early on, we usually do okay. But then Khan throws in an aura at me, which you really appreciate as a healer, especially when they're treacherous ground, so there's no way I can get out. And then at this point, as the barrack goes down, we've lost this point. But I try to use ult to get in and stop them, which is probably a bit of a waste. And then while I'm dead, they successfully cap. Now, I'm fully going to admit that I panic at this point. So that window position was fine. There was no real need to move. But for some reason, I decide I need to make a play. And so push up quite hard. And as a result, between Dredge and Grok, I go down. And now we're starting to get staggered and overrun. So Victor gets blown off the side of the map by the Ash, which is avoidable but happens. I try and get heals on this Lex, but I just cannot get line of sight on him for a while. And then by the time I do, our tanks are getting pushed on quite hard. The ult comes in and kills off the barrack. And we just don't have the numbers to stop them at this stage. So the Khan's in mid. They're dumping ults really rapidly, and I fail to get back into the doorway to spawn. It's just a little bit of map awareness that would help. Oh, here comes the VGS spam again, because obviously I'm not healing at all. So there's 2 deaths that probably were avoidable if I just looked where I was going. Sounds like crossing a road. So there was that death in mid where I thought I was going back into the open side and was actually stuck in an alcove. And there was that death where I missed going into the door to spawn, which would have kept me safe. I don't think it would have made a difference to that point. I think the earlier one was more important. Now on this final point, we've actually got a tactic together. So the Khan said go right side, so we did. The problem is that their whole team goes left side, and so we're now playing Ring Around the Roses. Barrack goes mid. I decide Khan's more competent, so I come to support him. And so him and I are now quite outnumbered, but with the doorway we can stay safe. And then Lex turns up to help. Khan throws a grok at me this time. It's like he's got little presents, my own personal Santa Claus. Ash gets isolated though, and now the numbers start to turn in our favour. So Grok goes down as well, and now we can push on them in mid. Barrack's dead because he went to mid by himself, because point tanks have to stand on point, right? But with the Khan up, I'm able to support and keep him alive. And as he pushes up to create space, I begin capping. Barrack's back. Ash is behind his shield, so that's about the second good beam I've done this game, but it's not my focus. And then I use the ultimate to stay alive and help the team. We get a couple of good kills, and now things are swinging quite heavily in our favour. So their healer's down, the Dredge gets staggered, and from this point they don't really have the numbers to compete. And so it's only a matter of time until we win this game. So, big takeaways from that one. I definitely need to not play every character like a flank. Let the flanks and damages play the offlane. I need to be focused more on supporting the tanks when I'm playing support. I need to learn where I'm going and not corner myself. But I think the most important thing is just don't be a dick. Paladins does have a bit of a toxic community in places. I don't think it's the majority by any stretch. And I'm sorry if this comes off as a lecture, but I genuinely believe most people are trying to play their best. And helpful advice is always welcome, or should be. But if you're just emote spamming and shit, then that's why people go AFK on you. And a lot of the time you can help your healer. They don't just have to help you. Anyway, rant over. I hope you enjoyed the video. Catch you next time, guys.